Let's go to Washington now, and NBC News White House correspondent Carol Lee. So, Carol, we now know the U.S. is collecting evidence of possible war crimes and human rights abuses by Russia in Ukraine. What's the White House saying about this investigation, and does it change anything about how the Biden administration is handling its dealings with Russia?
Well, Joe, White House officials are saying that they're appalled by what they're seeing in Ukraine in terms of how Russia is, in their words, targeting civilians, civilian infrastructure, and not sticking to the traditional international rules of war, where they would be targeting military installations. So White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki on Friday said that the administration is conducting an internal review, collecting evidence of what they say is potential war crimes. Now, the real question here is whether they have the evidence. The bar is that it has to show that Russia is intentionally doing this, not just targeting civilians, but as you'll recall, the alleged targeting of that nuclear facility last week, if that was seen as intentional. So they're gathering the evidence. Whether or not they make a formal accusation with the International Criminal Court, for instance, is a real open question, though, Joe.
The question is always, what can NATO, what can Western countries do to try and stop this or slow it down? We know they've been resistant to establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine. One alternative solution has been a proposed plan to send Soviet-era fighter jets to Ukraine through Poland. It appears there might be a snag there. What can you tell us about what the White House is saying about that?
Yeah, this is something that administration officials in the last few days had started to be expressing an openness to publicly. And now what we're learning is that behind the scenes, according to administration officials, there's not a lot of momentum within the administration for this issue. And it's for a couple of reasons. One is there are concerns in the U.S. and Poland that this is something that Russia could see as escalatory and potentially as direct involvement in the conflict in Ukraine. There's also this question of the U.S. would have to replace those Polish planes with F-16s. Officials say there's not a surplus of F-16s in the U.S., and so that's raising real concerns. And then just logistically, how they would get the planes into the hands of Ukrainians. Not only that, but how then do they make sure the Ukrainians know how to fly the planes, they get maintenance on the planes, fuel, all of those questions. So officials behind the scenes are saying that this is something that is not necessarily happening anytime soon.
All right. Carol Lee in Washington. Carol, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.